guys! Welcome to Wyoming and Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone National Park was established in 1872, making it the oldest national park in the United States and in the world. And while that's pretty interesting in and of itself, what's really cool about Yellowstone National Park is the fact that it sits in a giant, ancient volcano caldera. Volcanic eruptions began in Yellowstone about 2 million years ago and ended 640,000 years ago. Not long after, the entire volcano crater collapsed, forming the caldera that is Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone sits on a very shallow plume of molten rock called magma from the mantle. And it's because of all the heat from inside the earth that we get all of the geothermal features that are found here. Geothermal is just a fancy word for heat from the earth. Geo means earth, thermal means heat. And we know that heat from inside the earth is an inexhaustible resource. When the heat energy from the earth is transferred to water, we call it hydrothermal energy. Hydro meaning water, thermal meaning heat. We're going to get to see 4 different kinds of hydrothermal features here in Yellowstone. We're going to see geysers, hot springs, mud pots, and fumaroles. Okay, so this is Old Faithful Geyser. While it's not the tallest geyser in the world or the largest geyser in the world, it is one of the most famous and also one of the most regularly erupting. You can see behind me that there's steam coming out of the vent. What happens in a geyser is that superheated water that's way down below the Earth's surface, heated by the mantle, builds up. It can heat up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, causing steam bubbles to rise up. At the top of the vent, there's some blockage, and when those steam bubbles rise up and create pressure behind that blockage, finally the water at the top will overflow. That creates a lack of pressure below, and the superheated water shoots up into the sky. Wow, that was pretty cool, wasn't it? I want you to check out the dome that's right there around the heat vent. That white rock is called geyserite, and it's made out of silicon that's been dissolved from those ancient lava flows that are found here in Yellowstone National Park. Right over here is Spasm Geyser. Isn't that a great name? Spasm Geyser. Here's another good example of a geyser. Right here behind me, this is Fountain Geyser. And you can see how the water is shooting up out of the Earth's crust, superheated by the mantle below. Right behind me is another really good example of the thermal energy coming from inside the Earth. Right here, giant hot spring. This water is boiling from the geothermal energy from the mantle. The hot spring behind me right here is called Emerald Pool. If you'll look, the white rock around it, that's the geyserite rock. And then the orange rim, that's a layer of bacteria called thermophiles that like to live in extreme temperatures. Here's another hot spring. This one's called Blue Star. The water behind me, superheated, boiling, and I want you to look at the blue color. That's because the sunlight coming through that water is being refracted, and the only colors being refracted back to our eyes is blue. Here's another really good example of geothermal energy in action. Behind me is what's called a paint pot, or a mud pot. And as you can see, it's bubbling mud. What happens is as the water rises up from inside the crust and it's heated, it picks up some hydrogen sulfide gas from the mantle. Creates sulfuric acid, which dissolves the rock in the rhyolite, creating this mud right here. And you can see that it bubbles up right in front of your eyes. Here's another one of Yellowstone's famous hydrothermal features. Behind me is red spouter. This is what's called a fumarodd. You can see that there's no water coming up out of it, not a geyser, not a hot spring, just steam. This geothermal feature right here has so little water in it that it all turns to steam before it escapes from the Earth's crust. Can you hear the sound that it's making? Okay, now we're going to get to check out the last of Yellowstone's famous hydrothermal features. These are called the Mammoth Hot Springs, and they're kind of like the hot springs we saw earlier, except in one particular way. Those hot springs had water that rose up through the Earth's crust and dissolved the silica in the ancient lava flows, producing that white rock called geyserite, remember? But on this end of the park, the crust is made out of limestone. As that superheated water rises up, it picks up some carbon dioxide gas from the mantle, producing a weak carbonic acid. As that acid travels, it dissolves the limestone rock around it, and then that limestone is deposited at the top of the hot springs on the ground, producing terraces that we're going to get to see. Let's go check it out. Behind me is Canary Springs, and you can see a really good example of those limestone terraces that I was talking about earlier. Remember that limestone was dissolved deep underneath the earth by that carbonic acid, that superheated water that rose up from deep within the earth. It's then deposited here in these step-like structures called travertine terraces. Well guys, that about wraps it up for our trip to Yellowstone. I hope you enjoyed seeing and learning about some of the cool things that are found here, like geysers and hot springs, that are caused by the geothermal energy that's found deep inside our Earth. Enjoy the rest of your time off, and I'll see you back at school.